Malik D, your financial credit guru, the hitmaker, the school. Fox Soul's #1 financial podcast. Today, we are definitely getting ready to dive deep into a very important discussion and conversation that the black and brown community really need to tune in and really need to use the level of intelligence, if you have any, that's still left. I'm here with my tax accountant, financial slash economist, to sit here today on the Score podcast in hopes that we can really tap into this discussion and this conversation that we are getting ready to have and the effect that it's going to have on the black and brown community. And it's dealing with the midterms, it's dealing with inflation, it's dealing with interest rate hikes, and it's also affecting and rolling on over into the housing market.
Definitely.
Mr. Dan Green, let's get straight into what it is we need to dive into with these midterms and the effect that it's going to have on the black and brown community. I really hope these viewers and these listeners on the Score podcast really, really zoom into this episode.
Definitely. First of all, our viewers and listeners need to have an open mind. First of all.
Okay.
We've had a closed mind in terms of politics definitely for the last 50 to 60 years, and it's gotten us nowhere. And every 2 and 4 years, you keep hearing from the media that this is the most important election that's coming up. You hear that, but in this case, it really is. America, in terms of our economy and actually the world economy, is really we are in a recession, but we're about to go into a deep recession, one that we haven't seen in a while. And when you've got different policies coming out of Washington, policies coming out of Europe, and even Asia, it affects the people that it affects the most. Typically, not the wealthy, and even the upper middle class. The poor and the lower middle class get hit harder than any other segment of the population. And in looking at the midterm election, we need to be cognizant. This November, November the 8th, everybody, get out and vote. First of all, get out and vote, but be an informed voter. Just don't pull a lever because the candidate has a D beside their name or an aura. Know what this candidate stands for. Okay, please do that. Do your research. You've got all the information. With the technology we have today, it's easy to find out the past and the voting records of these people that are running for Congress.
Okay, Congress.
We got the Senate and the House of Representatives. Also, all politics is local. So know about if you've got local elections too. Make sure you know what's going on with your city council, your mayors, your county commissioners, definitely your school board members and all that, because there's been a lot of uproar lately regarding that, because the stuff they're teaching our kids about the CRT and these gender studies and about transgenders, the grooming and all of that stuff, and trying to get kids, have kids castrated literally, and with the young girls having mastectomies and all that stuff, and influencing kids with with the topics and stuff without informing their parents, and a lot of parents are finding out about it, and they're very upset. And they're teaching with the CRT, they're teaching kids and to hate each other based on race, and that black kids will always be eternal victims, and white kids will always be demons. And that is just insane. We should be coming together as a country, not pulling each other apart. And politicians like division, because with division, you have power.
Divide and conquer.
Divide and conquer. It is a truism that's been around for centuries, and politicians know that. But we, especially in the black community, tend to be the useful idiots.
Why?
Well, because we tend to think in a monolithic way, unlike other segments of
Most people don't even know what the word monolithic
we think as a
means.
group. The group think.
You gotta understand that we're dealing with our black and brown
Exactly.
community. Not saying that our black and brown community are illiterate or unintelligent, but most of these people don't even understand some of the vocabulary and the terms that you use it. So
Right.
this is a real sensitive conversation that
Understood.
we're having right now.
Correct.
So when you
And it's very important.
It's very important.
Right.
So when you're dealing with these viewers and you're dealing with our listeners, you gotta be real. You gotta understand that this is a real sensitive conversation that we're having, and for most people that is used to voting the D word Democrat, they have a certain type of mentality. So what you're trying to do right now is to properly educate them
Exactly.
to make them understand so they can break the chains on that mentality that has been instilled in them throughout history.
Exactly.
All the way from your great grandparents all the way up to your children and et cetera. They keep passing the same thing down from the olden days, which is the slave days, the Jim Crow era, the slavery times. So you have to break that cycle and break that chain with people on this people that's viewing into this podcast to score our viewers and listeners can comprehend and understand what it is that you're saying and what it is that you're talking about, because you got to look at the state of the mentality of the mental where they at.
Exactly. I understand. And getting back into that, when you look at the construct of the way that the Democrat Party is made up, and you look at the effect, just for example, most of the.
And I'm going to say this. I'm going to cut you off. There's been a lot of promises made from that Democrat Party, and I'm agitated and I'm pissed right now.
As well, you should.
You know what I'm saying? Because I pay attention. I pay close attention. It's almost to the point where it's a joke.
Exactly.
But let me finish. It's almost to the point like it's a joke, like we being toyed and played with. I mean, they'll get up there and speak and don't even know how to speak. They'll get up there and say things. And I mean, you saying one thing, but your actions is showing something different. It seems like every time when someone is running for president on that Democrat side, they promise you the world. They promise you whatever. And then they do the opposite once they get your vote and they get in these positions. And it's going to happen again after the midterms is over. If the Democrats, take the House and the Senate, or the Senate and the House and control the whole thing, it's going to get even worse.
Exactly. What is the definition of insanity?
Repeating the same thing, looking for a different result.
Exactly.
Am I right?
And that's what's been happening in the black community for at least the last 5 or 6 decades. Okay? At least. And if you look at all the major cities in America, they're completely controlled by Democrats. Even cities in red states, the Democrats have a stranglehold on the cities.
You can tell by the violence in those cities.
The violence,
the crime,
the poverty.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Most definitely.
The high taxes.
Most definitely.
And you've had what they said, white flight. You look at Detroit. Detroit is a prime example. Detroit has been controlled by black Democrats all the way back to the 60s. All the way back, and the city is bankrupt. And now it's finally coming back because of Chinese investment. But for decades, the city was just on a downward, and there's been so much corruption in the city. Chicago's another one on the verge of bankruptcy. And Chicago's Beirut. The violence.
Chirac.
Yeah, the violence and whatever. And these DAs and these mayors, they're all Democrats. They'll tell black folks that we care about you and we're going to do things to improve your community, but they never do. All they care about is power and control. And they take advantage of us. Every 2 and 4 years, they come into the community and say, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And we mindlessly vote D. And then we think all Republicans are racist. Republicans are racist. But what we're having now in this country, a small group of blacks, more and more blacks are turning to the Republican Party. And we've got a historic amount of black candidates running in the local offices and running for Congress and in the Senate, U.S. Senate, U.S. Congress and U.S. Senate this year. And a lot of them are winning.
Let's take a quick commercial break so we can pay these bills. But I want to jump right back into this because this is a serious topic and a sensitive topic.
Definitely.
Welcome back to the school. Let's go ahead and resume from where we just left off from, Dan.
I am encouraged by like I said, for decades, the Democratic Party had a stranglehold on the black vote because we mindlessly voted for Democrats.
Okay.
Now, some local black leaders, black clergymen or whatever, and the Republican Party has started to reach out towards the black community. And you're seeing a small but reasonable change in a segment of our population in terms of voting Republican, and they open their eyes. And it's encouraging. We have a long way to go. And it's just like when President Trump ran in 2016, he said, what do you got to lose? The Democrats haven't done anything for you. Give me a chance.
And when they gave him a chance, since everybody seems to think that this man is like the worst thing out there as far as being racist. Hell, look at our own community. We're racist towards each other.
But see,
hold on, let me finish though. When he made that statement, what do you have to lose? He was keeping it real and he was keeping it right.
He did.
Because look at where we at right now. With all the promises that's been made from an individual that stated that if you vote for me, if you don't vote for me, then you're not black.
You ain't black.
If you don't vote for me, then you must not be black.
Which is insane. And if you look, and I tell people,
and that's the same person
listen,
that came out with the crime bill.
Exactly.
That locked up all these black men.
Young black men, giving them 20 years for selling crack. Whereas
and called us super predators.
It called them super predators. Exactly right.
You think that has changed? You think that has changed in that man's DNA?
And he was best buddies with a former Grand Kleagle, Robert Byrd of the Ku Klux Klan.
Wow. Who
was a U.S. senator from West Virginia, and they were best friends. And he spoke at his funeral. Yeah.
Now
and he made racist comments about integration all the way back in the 70s. He was against integration.
And you know what else he's doing right now? They're tightening up on the crime. So that crime bill is going to show itself again. Even though that crime bill that he did was way back in the day, they bringing it back up.
Exactly. But getting back to Trump, this is how black people were misled during the Trump administration.
Okay, go ahead.
Black unemployment was the lowest it had ever been on record.
I bear witness.
Young black male unemployment was the lowest it had ever been.
I bear witness.
The real black wages went up. When you when you take in account inflation, real wages went up more than any other time since they've been keeping a record for 70 years for the black family.
But guess what they're saying? I don't care what Trump did for us. I don't care. He's a racist.
Yeah, because the media narrative and the Democrats pushed that crap. And before Trump ran for office, blacks loved him. He hired a lot of black people. All these celebrities.
All the celebrities was riding that man's way.
Exactly.
All of the celebrities. You had Puffy riding that man's way.
Yeah.
You had all these entertainers that thought that man was the best thing since sliced bread.
Exactly. And then when he decided to run for office and became president. And another thing, you know how much money? He wrote a check. And you had all the historically black college and university presidents there at the White House for the ceremony.
And I heard he gave more money.
$400 million, more than any other president ever. Because he said, it's no point in you guys coming here every year or so begging for money.
That.
We're going to take care of you now. Did Barack Obama do that?
Absolutely
H-E-double
not.
hockey sticks? No.
Absolutely not.
Just paid lip service to the black colleges.
Not.
Oh yeah.
But you have to be sensitive on this podcast discussing Barack Obama's name. Hold on. And discussing Kamala Harris's name. And discussing some of those Democratic Party individuals. You have to be real sensitive because people are so programmed and brainwashed
Exactly.
in our communities.
Exactly.
Black communities, to be exact. The Hispanics is thinking on a whole different type of wavelength.
That is, and I can get into that because the Hispanics have come over here. A lot of them can't speak the language. They come over here, and you go to here in Charlotte. You go down South Boulevard. You go down Central Avenue.
Hispanics run everything.
Look at the businesses.
They run everything.
Yeah, they control those streets, all these businesses or whatever. And black people are complaining, and we're falling as a group. We're number 3 now. We're not number 2 anymore. We're number 3. The Hispanics have taken our place.
Well, like I said, like I mentioned to you before, we're not even number 3. We might be 4 and 5.
We're busy complaining. We're worried about phantom racism. Everything is racist now. I'm originally from Alabama. I grew up in the 60s and 70s.
South.
I know what real racism is. If you don't agree with somebody, you're a racist, or you're a sexist, or you're a homophobe.
Just like what we're talking about on this podcast.
Exactly.
If people don't agree with it, then it's the what's that thing called when they want to council culture?
The council culture.
It's the council culture.
The
now.
worst human being on this in America is a black conservative. They're lower than pond scum to liberals and the media.
So how does this midterm affect the black and brown community? All the way from interest rates, all the way from inflation. Let's build so our community can be properly informed. So when they do make the decision to step out there to cast a vote, they're not casting a vote just based off the word D like they normally do.
Exactly.
Especially with the conditions that people are in now, and we're heading for a deep economic downturn.
Exactly.
And people, the promises that was made to them, I mean, the promises are not being fulfilled. So when it comes around again to vote again, then they're going to be making all these promises that they're not going to keep. And when the midterms is over, they're going to pull the rug out from up under them.
Well, for one thing, when Biden was elected, he said he was going to bring the country together.
That's what he said.
And the country is more divided now than it has ever been.
Absolutely.
The black wealth, black real wages have gone down.
Absolutely. We bear witness to that,
Black
too.
unemployment is going up. It's
we
going up.
We bear witness to that, too. And the layoffs is coming, too.
The layoffs will be coming because of his policies. We're going into recession now. He cuts off the pipe. He shuts down the pipeline. He says, I'm going to wage a war on oil and gas. Now we're all paying what we're paying at the pump now. What were we paying when Trump left office? And what are we paying now for gas, for gas and fuel? And that has a ripple effect because these are all related to policies of Joe Biden, his war on energy, and all that spending where they threw all that money into the economy with all these bailout programs and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then they just passed this climate act, okay, which is a total misnomer because basically what it is a tax increase. Anytime you have inflation, it's a tax increase because it costs you more money to buy the same goods.
Like food.
So that's a tax. That's
like
a tax.
Like it's an indirect tax.
Exactly.
We're going to lower the anyone that's making less than $400,000, you will not see your taxes being raised.
And that was a complete lie.
Because the inflation is rolling it up, making
Exactly.
things being more expensive, and it's a hidden tax.
And plus, there are some things in that legislation that will be direct increases in taxes, which they have not disclosed. The media has covered it up. People need to go and look at that legislation because it will impact you.
How so?
It's going to it can impact your employer because if their taxes go up or whatever, they're going to lay people off. Mm-hmm. They're not going to be able to make as much of a profit, so that's going to affect their bottom line. So what they do, they cut back on employees, or they cut back on buying items. I mean, goods and services, not goods but materials. Mm-hmm. If it's a manufacturer or whatever, so when taxes or whatever they do, they pass it. If they don't do that, they just pass the cost, the increase in taxes along to the consumer. Mm. So the consumer ends up paying more. So if you raise taxes on Microsoft, okay, and so if the federal government does that, So they just pass that along to the people who buy the computers with the Windows operating system on it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to increase the cost of the computer. The same thing with the
Hold your thought. Welcome back to the school. Let's go ahead and resume from where we left off, Dan.
Right. So when these politicians, the Democrat politicians for the most part, tell you they're going to hit big corporations and the wealthy when they want to raise taxes, it's not going to affect the middle class and the lower middle class. That is an absolute lie. And they know most of the people that vote for them don't really understand how modern how economics work. If you raise taxes on a corporation, what they do is pass it along they just raise the prices of the goods and services they sell. So that's going to impact you because you're the consumer.
Wow.
So that's a tax. It's a hidden tax. It's common sense, folks. It's common sense. Okay? And the super wealthy have people like me and tax lawyers to set up charitable remainder trust and all kinds of tax schemes so they can avoid paying taxes. And it was just like when they passed this legislation, and these Wall Street guys got exempt from the carry interest. I won't get into the details of it, but this carry interest exemption allowed them to still be taxed at capital gains rather than regular income taxes. These wealthy Wall Street guys made out like a bandit with this new legislation. But people like you and me, we get hit hard because we are the consumers and we're at the bottom of the totem pole, me in the middle class. That's where most of the tax revenue comes from. It doesn't come from the corporations, and it does not come from the super wealthy. Most of the tax revenue that goes into the federal government comes from the middle class. Go look at the numbers. And most people don't know that. And we're the ones that get squeezed. They're going to, with that new legislation, they're going to have 86,000 more IRS auditors.
Yeah.
That should scare everybody. That's just, especially if you're a small business person with write-offs, they're going to come after you. They're going to scrutinize everything you do. If these guys are funded, and you better hope the Republicans take over because they can cut the funding to the IRS so that they don't get those. The law has been passed, but in the next 2 to 3 years, it's going to take that long to hire all those folks. If the Congress controls the budget, not the White House. So if you get the Republican controlling Congress, they can kill it. They don't have to fund it.
Wow.
So that's one good thing if the Republicans take over. If the Democrats retain control of Congress, the IRS agents are going to be on your door. And that I'm not telling you that to scare you people. That's going to happen if you are a business person. If you're poor, they're going to leave you alone because you don't pay taxes anyway. But if you are a business person, a middle class and upper middle class person, you own 4 Wendy's, okay? You hired 75 people. And you got write-offs, equipment write-offs, depreciation, all that kind of stuff. They're going to be up your butt. They're going to be up your ass looking at every little deduction and everything you do because you're going to get some guy out of school for 4 years after a 4-year degree, wet behind the ears, wants to make his bones, okay? And he's going to do it on you, your business. He's going to be.
You talking about the IRS?
The IRS, 20
young millennial.
Yeah, some 25-year-old punk's going to be with this power telling you, I am not going to allow this deduction. You got to prove this. You got to prove everything.
Then they start seizing your bank accounts and freezing your bank account so you can't function in business and things like that.
And this was all, not a single Republican voted for this. This is all Democrat. This is something Biden pushed. Obama tried to do it, but he couldn't get it to be successful.
Wow.
It didn't pass even with the Democrats back in 2009.
But a lot of people don't know this in the black and brown communities,
No, I know.
though, Dan. And this is what this podcast is for, is to properly educate you guys so you guys can have an open mind.
Exactly.
And use your intellect. Use your intelligence.
Think for yourself, people. Don't get off the plantation. Please.
Much.
The Hispanics never got on the plantation. And that's why they're breaking towards the Republican Party, because these are business people, and they know they have left countries that were socialistic countries that turned into fascist countries, that turned into dictatorships, okay? And they know what it's like to have an onerous, a repressive government with too much power and control. They know what it's like. So when they come over here and they see America, and we that have been born here think America is so bad and it's so repressive. towards black people, and Hispanics come over here are much more disadvantaged than
flourish.
us
They
because they
flourish.
can't even speak the language or whatever, but they pool their resources, something we don't do, and they flourish. And it's not just, well, they're not as dark as us. Well, the same thing about black Africans. They come over here and flourish too.
And them black Africans.
And they're outdoing the black Africans are the wealthiest group. They're even outdoing the Asians. Africans
Wow, I didn't
come
know
over
that.
here and are doing extraordinarily well. People from the continent, from the home continent, as you people want to say,
Homeland.
the homeland, better.
The motherland.
They are coming over here and kicking ass. I have several of them as clients, and I'm telling you, they're some of my biggest clients are these people from Nigeria and Ghana and all these other countries.
But you know, when they come over here, they look upon the black American people like, you guys.
They think we're idiots. I have talked to them. They said black people here are idiots. They don't realize how good they've got it. We come over here with nothing, and all we want are opportunities. We don't want favors. We just give us opportunity and leave us alone. That's what they want. That's what they tell me.
They think black Americans are lazy.
They do. They think we're inherently lazy. They don't have anything to do with us. And when I talk to them, say, you can't be born here. I said, yes. He said, you don't have that kind of mentality. I said, no, I haven't had it since 1980. Okay. I said that was the last time I voted for a Democrat for president.
Wow.
Because I was told by my elders that if Ronald Reagan got elected, he was going to send all us black folks back to Africa. And it scared the crap of me. And I was a junior in college, and I actually believed that crap.
Did you, Dan?
Yes, I did. The night he won, I didn't get any sleep.
You thought they was.
I was a big Jimmy Carter
and take you back and ship you back to Africa.
I was told that. I was told that, which is insane.
Wow.
But you have a lot of people in our community today that think that way. And because what I call the black intelligentsia, which is these black elites, so for folks that don't know what intelligentsia means, and these are so-called the leaders in the black community, and they see it's all about power and control. If you go from fear, you scare people half to death, and then that's how you can control them, and then that's how these elites get power. And they want to keep us they want us to give us just enough so that we can function, but not flourish. That's what these politicians is. The most racist person on this in America is a white country club liberal. Look at how they treated those brown people when the governor from Florida shipped them to Martha's Vineyard. Yeah, they didn't even stay there. They didn't stay there 2 days. What did they do? Send them off to a military base.
They did.
And then they celebrated it. And all these people voted 90% for Democrats, for 90% for Biden. These people in Martha's Vineyard.
They did.
And why didn't Obama open up his big old mansion?
Why didn't he? Also, I want to ask you a question. Since we're talking about these midterms, man, and the impact that's going to have on our community, these promises that Biden had made in the beginning when he became president, he made these, like you stated before, and I heard him state this too when he was running for president. He's gonna bring unity. He's gonna bring unity. He's gonna stop. He's gonna make sure that the economy flourishes and things and rebound back from COVID. And he also stated that he's going to go ahead and defund the police. Remember, it was all about defunding the police. They had this agenda, him and Kamala Harris, about defunding and bailing out people out of jail and things like that. And now we in a state right now where it's almost like the purge.
Exactly. Biden.
Am I asking you the right question?
Yes.
When you give me the right
Biden
response?
was silent on defunding the police, but Kamala Harris and pretty much, especially.
And keep in mind that Kamala Harris, like I stated before, she locked up a lot of brothers.
Kamala Harris is one of the biggest frauds in the history of modern political politics. The only person that exceeds her is Hillary Clinton. Okay.
Now, what makes her a fraud?
Because she ran when she was the district attorney in San Francisco. She put so many young black men for smoking weed in prison. She got them. She went after them. That's how she got it. She made a reputation. The same when she was Attorney General. Then when she started running for, and then she calls Joe Biden in the primary, she calls him a racist
Yeah, I
because he
remember that.
associated with Robert Byrd, Strom Thurmond, and some of these other Southern Democrats at the time, even though they originally became Republicans or whatever, but they were originally Southern Democrats that were very
Let's take a quick
racist.
commercial break, Dan. We got to pay these bills.
Okay.
We're going to get back to it.
Okay.
Welcome back to the school. Let's go ahead and resume from where we left off before the commercial break.
Yes, but anyway, during the primary debates, Kamala Harris laid into Biden, calling him a racist and all that kind of stuff.
I seen it.
Went after him, and she was telling the truth. That's one time she told the truth. Okay? Because you look at his pay, all the people he associated with, these Southern Democrats, these devout racists, yes, he was best friends with them. But when she ran, when she was the district attorney in San Francisco, she went out, she locked up a lot of young black men.
And they still locked
And
up.
she made her bones.
And they still locked up.
She made her bones off the back.
And they still locked up to this day.
And when she was Attorney General of California. And then during the height of the George Floyd riots and stuff, then she goes, let's defund the police. Let's raise money for bail and all that for all these agitators and all that. And they were burning and looting the cities and stuff. The media wouldn't cover it. But the black people that lived in these neighborhoods and stuff knew what was going on. They were suffering. Their businesses were burned down and looted and stuff. And when you go into the black neighborhoods and stuff and ask them, do they want to defund the police? I guarantee you, most 99% of them will say no, because that was the police were there. Now, granted,
to protect the community.
Exactly. You have some racist police, yes, but they are outliers. Most of the cops are not racist. Just like in any profession, you're gonna have good and bad. And Harris went ahead and based her campaign and stirred the black community up and said, "I'm your friend. We're going to defund the police, and we're going to make sure we go for cashier's bail and all that kind of stuff." And you see what that has done in 2 years.
To these communities.
These
are communities, man, there's so much crime going on.
It's insane.
In these communities,
Absolutely
man.
insane.
You don't even feel safe walking out your house.
And what it's going into, it has spilled over into the white communities, into the suburbs now.
Now it's a problem.
It's a real problem now. It's always been in the black community, but now it's going into the middle class and upper middle class communities. Carjackings.
Oh, yeah.
That's becoming and these are teenage kids.
Yeah.
And they're black.
Yeah.
Most of the time. And you know what? This is the thing that really gets me. When a white cop shoots a black man, the media will cover it wall to wall.
But when a black person shoots a black person,
when
they won't cover it.
When a little black girl's at a bus stop and she gets shot by some black thug or some black gangster, shoots him errantly or whatever and kills her, you hear it on the local news a little bit for a couple of days
but
or
you
whatever.
Won't even get any coverage on
That's
that
it.
from the mainstream media.
Mainstream media, national media, nothing. Chicago is Beirut. It's a war zone. More people be dying in Chicago than in cities in the Middle East. 20, 30 people a weekend get shot. 7 or 8, 9, 10 die.
And what about each
in Chicago?
But what about each individual that gets killed in Chicago? Like you said, they don't even cover that with the mainstream media.
No. Now, if a white cop, look at the Jesse Smollett thing. Complete hoax. I knew it was a hoax from day one. You're going to have two white boys in that neighborhood in the middle of 2 o'clock in the morning. That didn't make any sense. It was total fabrication. And you still got some people that believe it actually happened. It was a crop. When you have.
But you see, they let them ride out though.
Oh yeah. But see, these people who make up racism make it bad for when you actually have cases of racism.
But I want to stick to the script here.
Yeah.
I got to stick to the script.
Okay.
Because our viewers and our listeners and our communities is tuning in to the school.
Right.
And like I said, this is a real sensitive conversation that we're having because they've been conditioned for quite some time to think one way.
Exactly.
So I want to get back into that conversation as to how these midterms are going to affect the African American community, the black and brown community, if the Democrats take X, Y, and Z.
Getting back on that. if the Democrats retain power in Congress, in the House and the Senate, we're gonna go into an economic tailspin.
We heading there right now.
No, it's gonna be much worse. They're gonna spend like crazy. They're gonna give us money. Inflation's gonna. They're
not gonna actually give the people money.
No. They're gonna come up with more aid programs.
So it's gonna be some more relief.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but that's going to make it worse because when you pump a lot of money into the economy, this is basic economics, folks. When you got too much money out there chasing few goods, you have hyperinflation. That's what happened in the 70s when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, and that's where we are now. We're going back to what was happening in the late 70s and the early 80s, and what they had to do was Jimmy Carter, which is one of the best things he did, was he brought in Paul Volcker to run the Federal Reserve, and they started raising interest rates. My brother, when he bought his first house, his mortgage rate was 18.5%, and he had AAA credit. That was a great rate. And the prime lending rate was 20%. Yeah, that's because that's a result of what was happening with the Federal Reserve. They were raising rates to fight inflation. That's their major tool to fight inflation. They have to keep raising interest rates. That's why the mortgage rates have gone from 3.5% now to over 6%.
7%.
In the last 6 months.
7%.
And that's because the Federal Reserve.
And they're going to do another interest rate hike in November.
Exactly. That inflation will do more harm than any other aspect of the economy because it's a tax. It's a tax on your income. It's not a direct tax from the IRS, but when you're out there buying goods and services, you're paying a lot more.
And you can see it in the grocery stores
exactly.
like we talking
your
about.
Your buying power is decreased, so it's a tax. If your buying power goes down, it's a tax.
So what he said, when he said anyone making less than $400,000, you will not see your taxes raised, period. But then they turn around and they do that hidden tax with the gas, with the food in the stores, with goods and services. That's how you end up getting taxed without really letting the people know that they getting taxed.
Exactly. His war.
So it's wordplay.
Yep. His war on energy has set up a ripple effect on the economy, and it's caused inflation, along with what the Federal Reserve had been doing for all these years, keeping interest rates artificially low and pumping all that money, quantitative easing, in the market, in the economy over the last 10, 20 years.
So quantitative easing is when they put money into the economy.
Exactly.
Quantitative tightening is when they're taking money out of the economy. And that's what they're doing right now.
Exactly.
The quantitative tightening.
Yeah.
They're taking money out.
And
that's why people are bleeding right now.
Exactly. And they're making the cost of money more expensive by raising rates. And it's already starting to affect the housing market. People are pulling back, buying houses now, or refinancing or whatever because the rates are going up. And it's going to continue. He's got to do that because inflation is hovering around 8% now, 8.5%. Whereas when Trump left office, inflation.
Matter of fact, the CPI report came out about a month ago. It was at almost a month ago. It was at 8.3.
Yeah.
They just brought it back down to the May levels where May inflation CPI report was at back in May, 8.3, because it got all the way up to 9.1.
Exactly.
They playing with the numbers.
Exactly.
They manipulating the
numbers. And they take out food and energy, which would make it even a lot more. If they take out food and energy in the main index, because if they added that in, it'll be a lot worse. Okay. I buy these breakfast bars from Nature. Was it Nature Made? Okay.
My holistic store.
Yeah. And a year ago, I was paying $2 something for them. Now I'm paying $5.
Wow.
For 6 little bars, breakfast bars. That's the milk, orange juice, all of that stuff.
Eggs.
Yeah, eggs, steak, chicken,
bread.
Anybody that goes to the grocery store knows what's going on.
They know exactly what's going on.
And you know what inflation was when Donald Trump left the White House? January 20th, 2021, just over 2%. That's what inflation was.
Well, really, they're saying that when inflation is at 8.3, well, really it's higher than that.
Yeah. When you factor
up in the Biden administration.
When you factor in food and energy, it's a lot worse. And what was gas? What was gas when Trump left office? It was $2.20.
Wow. In some spots, it was $1.89.
Yeah, exactly. So
now this so-called giving you relief on a 90-day gas tax. That's just bullshit too. That 90-day gas tax. That 90-day gas tax. It's expiring now.
Oh, let me tell you what that was. They tapped the strategic oil reserve, which is something you don't supposed to do unless we're in time of war. Okay? And then you know what else he did? He sent a big chunk of oil to China, our biggest enemy. That's another thing.
Let's take a quick commercial break so we can pay these bills, and we're going to jump back into this thing, the school. Come back to the school. Dan, let's take off on where we left from before we went into the commercial break, and how important it is for our community to really understand why this midterm election is so important, and not to basically repeat the same process, man, because it was a lot of promises that's been made. And those promises has been made just to try to get your vote. And the moment that they get your vote for that Democratic Party side, when you already see that everything that was promised to you and everything that has always been promised to you, it always turn up being the opposite. And
Exactly.
And you can actually see it in the economy right now. This ain't nothing that we talking to you about. You actually feel it. You actually see it. You actually see it in your businesses.
Exactly. What I would say is, don't base your vote on emotion. Stop voting that way. That's one of the biggest problems in our culture, in our community. We vote based on emotion. We like this guy. We like the way he presents himself. Obama was a master at that, getting people all ginned up or whatever.
Trickster.
Exactly. But look at what's going on in your community. Look at what's going on in the country. And the Democrats are in complete control of this country. The Republicans have no power in Washington. They can't stop anything Biden wants to do. Okay? All the stuff that he wanted to get passed, he's getting passed. And you see what it's doing to the economy. Vote with your pocketbook, people. And give the Republicans, just think about 2 years ago. Just think about what was going on in this country before the pandemic, how prosperous America was.
Oh, yeah.
People had jobs. People were turning jobs away. People were making money, real income. They had real income.
Your small businesses was flourishing.
Exactly. People were starting businesses and flourishing or whatever. And then you look, the economy they shut the economy down because of COVID and all that. That had a major impact. But then the economy was coming back under Trump. It was coming back his last year at the end of 2020. It was coming back.
Yeah.
Even during the pandemic, it was coming back. They probably shouldn't have shut the economy down anyway, but that's hindsight. Then Biden comes in and institutes all these executive orders, and then the Democrat Congress, along with Biden, passed legislation that has damaged the economy and thereby taken away real wealth from the population. If you look at what's happening just on people's, you say it's the Wall Street has lost $7 trillion or whatever over the last 6 months, especially over the last 2 and 3 months. Well, doesn't really affect me. If you got a pension, you've lost a good percentage of your wealth.
And
if you work for
your 401ks, and your mutual funds,
exactly. So yes, the decisions that made in D.C. does affect you. Okay, those decisions do affect you, and you need to be cognizant of who's in control right now. And the Democrats are in complete control. Don't listen to the media, because they're not going to tell you what's really going on in D.C. If they do, they're gonna tell you that it's going to be they're gonna give it from their perspective, and most of the people in the media are Democrats. So by the time you get the information, it's going to be skewed. And you got to do your own research, people. You've got the internet or whatever. Do your research. Study these candidates. Look at how they voted and see the legislation that they've supported or whatever. Has it benefited you, or has it hurt you? Has it harmed you economically?
Look at the current state and the current situations that a lot of us is in right now. So I say that it has hurt and that pretty much it has harmed.
Exactly. You can't blame this on Trump. You can't even blame this on the pandemic because all of this money that's been pumped into the economy was at post-pandemic. We didn't that last stimulus check we got. Everybody loved it or whatever, but you see what's happening now as a result of it. We never should have gotten it. We didn't need it. People were going back to work and all that kind of stuff, and people were still getting that unemployment anyway. That was another thing they shouldn't have done. Extended the unemployment. It told people you didn't have to go to work. People
so let's just be blunt. Let's just get straight to the point and let's just be blunt, man. How does this hurt that black and brown community if the Democrats take them seats?
We're going to stay in this, like Jimmy Carter said, in this malaise, in this this terrible economy. It's not going to get any better because the policies coming out of Washington are going to still be hyperinflationary, which is going to take away your purchasing power. And they're going to be they're going to restrict your rights with all these crazy regulations. They're pushing this climate change stuff, this green energy stuff, which is going to it's going to disproportionately harm black and brown people and poor white people because
How so?
It's going to keep energy prices up.
High.
It's going to keep it up because
So they be paying more in electrical bills.
Like what they're doing in California. They said by 2035, they want all vehicles. They're going to gas-powered vehicles will be outlawed. That is insane. And what starts in California tends to ripple across the country. And Biden is already talking about adopting what Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, has signed in the legislation out there in California, basically outlawing gas-powered cars by 2035.
Wow.
That is absolutely insane. And the most recent legislation they passed is going to make it more expensive for us, the people in the black and brown community, because we're at the lower end of the economic scale.
Now, what about small businesses?
Because we pay more for basic goods and services. We pay more, a much higher percentage of our income than wealthy folks.
So with this midterms coming up and they do take control of the House and the Senate, the Democrats, how does it affect small businesses?
Oh, it's going to even be worse because of the fact with the IRS auditors. They're going to be come out with more regulations related to climate change, which is a fake science anyway, but I won't get into that. All of that stuff. It's going to be more onerous, or it's going to be more difficult to function as a small business person under this current, if the Democrats keep control of D.C. It's going to be much more difficult to operate as a small business person. They might give you a little bit of manna from heaven, give you some more handouts and stuff, but in terms of real growth or whatever, or real productivity, you're not going to be able to function like you should. You're going to be shackled. Like Biden said, when he said that Romney was going to put us in chains back in 2012, well, Biden is putting us in chains economically with these crazy policies.
So you think it's a wealth transfer that's taking place too?
In the essence, yes. But it's a wealth transfer not from rich to poor. It's going the opposite way. Wall Street and the wealthy elite, they're making out like a bandit under this guy. See, and this is what I'm telling you.
Institutions.
Yeah, let me tell you, this is what's happened now. You used to associate the Republican Party with the super wealthy.
Yeah.
You look at most of the very wealthy people, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, the guy that runs Jeff Bezos, they're all Democrats. Most of these guys on Wall Street, most of the guys on Wall Street gave money to the Biden campaign, the Clinton campaign, and the Obama campaign. 4 or 5 times more. Go back and look at the records. 4 or 5 times more than they give Republicans. The Republican Party is it's a populist party now. Trump turned it into a populist party. And you've got small business people, the guy that owns 4 or 5 Wendy's. Okay? It's not the wealthy corporate lawyer or the wealthy doctor. They're not Democrats. It's small business people. And it's not these elite college professors. They're all Democrats. The Trump's coalition, yes, you got rural whites, but you got a lot of small business people.
Which makes up the economy.
Yeah, and you got black business people and Hispanic business people. That's the Republican coalition now. The Democratic Party, that's the country club white people on Wall Street, the people out there in Hollywood, these elite athletes and stuff, they're all Democrats. They don't care if taxes go up or whatever. It's not going to hit them hard because of the way they're paid or whatever. Because a lot of those guys make money a lot of the wealthy Wall Street people get paid they get their income is on capital gains. It's not salary.
Right.
So
You would know because you're a tax accountant.
they're at a much lower tax rate. They know most of the people have no clue what that is. And they don't realize how these wealthy guys, that's why when they passed that legislation, they kept that carried interest. I won't get into it. While these Wall Street managers, they get paid their salaries at capital gains rates. Not what you and I make. I mean, not at the 37%, 20%.
Well, in closing, we're going to go ahead and shut this podcast down for the moment.
Okay.
What would you suggest to the community? What
I suggest is do your research, folks, and stop. Like I said, the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing and expecting different results. You voted Democrat all these decades, and look where you are. And we spent all this money on the war on poverty, and it's gotten us nowhere as a group. We're falling farther and farther behind the Hispanic community and the white community. And we better have a come to Jesus moment, or we're going to be in 5th place before you know it.
And with that said, welcome to the school. We're trying to give you some freedom and culture. We're trying to properly educate you. And we're going to continue to keep on properly educating you, as long as you're willing to use your intelligence and your intellect to receive what's been put out here to you. Pleasure to have you, Dan Green. Malik D, your financial credit guru, the hit maker of the school. Peace.